Hey, welcome to today's webinar with the Contracting Coach. You'll be able to find this recording on our Google Plus page, as always. And we're doing a little quick webinar this morning to talk about daily project reporting done right. It's kind of a guide to getting the best information from the field. All right. And, obviously for most of you, the presenter today is me, Tony Booth, the host of the Contracting Coach Cast. And so let's get started with today's hangout and webinar about project reporting. Okay. Majority of you here, I know you've done reports in the past, right? We've all been there. We've all had to do them. And, we dreaded them, right? We put off filling out our reports. We didn't do them in a timely fashion, which caused us to make stuff up, right? Guess at what information. And we always felt that they were getting in our way. We should be focused on productivity, getting things done, organizing our jobs or projects, whatever it may be. We really didn't have time to really sit down and do all this reporting. So I'm sure that a lot of you here have been doing reports in the past, and many of you have moved up. If you're here listening to this, you may have moved up into a more of a leadership role. And I ask, what have you done? What have you done lately? What changes have you made to correct these problems that you have, right? Because we've had them. Why don't we make changes to make it so the others don't? So today we're going to spark some ideas in you on how to make some changes to make these things better. But before we get started, right, I want to thank Raking Apps for, help putting this webinar together and being a great participant in this and sharing us, giving us this time to be together. So let's get started with the webinar. So today we're going to cover what I look at reporting, the key info types that's recorded on your project reporting, right? What are the key parts that go into every daily report? We're going to look at what is the importance of collecting that information properly, getting the proper information. And then we're going to close out with some ideas on how to improve the reporting process for your teams so that you can get good information from the field. So let's look at it. Okay, the key types of information that we collect in a daily report, I break down into three basic areas, okay? There's the generic information. That's your basic stuff. Then there's the consumption information. This is stuff that needs to be recorded for a next step or another process. And then lastly, there's the protection information. And this is the basic CYA stuff, the things that we need that we may or may not need one day to protect us from some unforeseen event. So let's look first at our generic information, okay? This is the basics that go into every report. It's the who, the what, the when, the where, the project name, who's filling out the reports, who's in charge, who was there, what we did that day, if we were there, right? The basic information, the weather that went on, and the things like that. Now, this is, very important that this information is done. And I got to tell you, it's very important that this information is recorded regularly, like daily. I remember years ago, we were on a project and, we always had a rule. We did daily reports, whether we were on the project or not. Okay. So just so you know, so here's what happened. There was a project we were working on. We were doing the site work for the project, and our crews were doing sewer and water installs, all that stuff up to the building. Well, one day the local newspaper went by the job site, took pictures of the guys working, and they did an article on the front page of the newspaper about this new senior living home being installed in this neighborhood, right? And on the front page is the guys working, and they show a picture of a guy in a trench. And needless to say, let me shorten this up, right? The guy was in a trench that was too deep. It was unsafe. It was not following OSHA guidelines. Okay, wasn't our guy. But when the local OSHA reps saw this newspaper article, they said, "Oh, look, there's a violation. We can't stand for this." They called the developer, who said, "Oh, the site work, that must be so they sent them to us, and so OSHA shows up at our office and says, we want to talk to your people that were at the project yesterday when the newspaper man was there. And we were like, sir, I'm sorry, but our administrators in the office were able to look at our daily reports and our stuff and say, well, we weren't on that project yesterday. And he goes, oh yes, you were. Here's here's the pictures, and here's all this stuff. And long story short, we were able to, they were able to produce the daily reports from our foreman showing that we weren't there. They ended up researching further and finding out it was the plumber, not our guys. But you see, if we didn't have that information, nobody, we may not have been able to defend ourselves at first there, and we might have gotten into a little bit of a fight with OSHA. But thanks to our good reporting, we were able to save it. So when it comes to your generic information, we need good reporting, because without it, we kind of lack knowledge of events, right? I had another instance where we had an owner that was working with us on some delay stuff, and we needed to, verify some weather and that it at least affected our job site for 2 hours or more. Well, our superintendent did not do a good job at recording that information, that generic information. So we had to spend, probably a day or two of time going back, because the project was well over a year into it. And we had to go back to every single day, look at every single report to see what we were doing that day, to see if the weather, when it rained, affected us. So it was, it was a lot of time. And we all know wasted time is money, right? So we don't want to waste time. So the next thing we look at is what I call the for consumption. Okay. And what I mean by this is stuff that's something that's recorded for someone else's benefit. Okay. This is your payroll stuff, right? We record names and time of people so that we knows what to do when paying people. This is a lot of job costing stuff, productivity stuff, like our billings and how we do all that. So this stuff is very important, and it's the most common that goes in every report. We all know that we need to know who was on the job and for how many hours. We all know we need this information for job costing. So we do a pretty good job in general of collecting this information, and our people out in the field understand, right? And it's also the most tracked, because if payroll gets a report that's not done properly, they're back giving that person a hard time, right? So this is the stuff that, again, this is where we pick up information about what's going on in the job and actual kind of things that we use, the things we do. And this is stuff that somebody down the line is looking at. Okay. This is stuff that somebody should be looking at on a regular basis. An important story of this information, right? We had a project we were doing, well, actually several projects, but we had a superintendent that was running some projects for us. And, we were watching his production, and we were looking at our material consumption versus his productivity. And we started noticing that, like, there was always, like, we were running at, a yard, 2, 3, 4, anywhere from, 2 to 6 yards over. We could find that in any given week, right? We were like noticing that we were often running over on concrete materials. So we couldn't figure out exactly what was going on, why it would seem like we were, at first we thought it was just poor preparation, but, this triggered us to look into a little closer, and we found out that he was actually doing side work using our concrete. So he was going to the houses where we were working and, pouring driveways and stuff like that, with the leftover concrete. So this is important stuff. You want to make sure you catch it, make sure you keep track of it, right? Because bad reporting of this information doesn't allow you to monitor your projects properly. And it certainly costs a lot of time if this information isn't done right. You got payroll coming out, trying to track down hours for manpower, missed payroll, accounting, trying to find out, what materials did you use? What invoices should they be paying? There's a whole lot of stuff that would just be, can create a lot of wasted time if this reporting's not done properly. And as we know, time is money. Okay. So the last part of this type of information I call is the general protection. And this is the CYA stuff. This is the stuff we all talk about, the stuff that could go wrong, that might go wrong, and we want to have some information to protect us if it does. And I look at this as two different things, right? There's the known and kind of the unknown. And obviously this is CYA stuff, so you don't know everything. But when I talk about the known part, I mean, I'm talking about the things that are common. These are things that okay? Like the little, like the slide picture shows, right? If you're mopping floors, if you're one of those people, you kind of know there's a good opportunity that you could have a slip and fall. So you need to put a caution wet floor sign out. Well, do you record that you were doing that? Do you take some pictures to show that your people are putting out wet floor signs? Okay. So these are the typical things. These are the things you can think about that you can say, hey, it's reasonably anticipated based on the work we do that we might have these things occur. And we need to report in our daily reporting that we've covered those basics. Okay. These often revolve around safety or quality or maybe productivity. This is where delay by other subcontractors come into play, right? These are some common things that can occur, and we want to make sure we're documenting those things. The last thing we want to do, we get to the end of a project and we're struggling for meeting the schedule, and somebody's coming down on us saying it was our fault, yet we know it was not. We were delayed all throughout the project by someone else, but we didn't document it. So guess what? We're stuck holding the bag, right? So this stuff's really important. This is the stuff that, like I said, it's kind of the things that that you kind of know they have a good opportunity to happen. And my important story of this, why this is important, kind of this stuff is it deals with people that do traffic control stuff. We used to do a lot of that in road work. And what we would require is the end of the day, we would always take a ride and video the traffic control so that we could show, because you never know when an accident occurs. And the first thing that's going to happen is the lawyers are going to get involved, and they're going to start trying to claim that you did not set up your traffic control properly. Now, we can't cover everything. Again, we're not going to have the exact pictures of where the accident occurred maybe, but if you have a habit of your daily reports come in every day with notes from your superintendents and foremans that this stuff was checked at the end of the day and the beginning of the day, and you did proper layouts and it was painted and all that stuff. If those things are on there and you have pictures and checklists, it's a lot better, in the defense department when you're in those situations. So, and these are, like I said, these are the common things. So if you do certain things where these risks and hazards exist, you want to make sure you're reporting that you're doing the right things. And then we get into the unknown, right? These are the ones that shock you. Very rarely, a lot of times you may not know anything and you're not going to have any reports. And there's really no easy way to report for these, but you never know. Okay. And so these are like, when I look at the unknowns, I'm talking about the things that are unlikely, the rare things that occur, public interactions, right? This is, some person strolls onto the job site and trips in a hole or trips over a stick, or, who knows what it is, or they climb on your piece of equipment, fall off. Okay. This is stuff that may happen with other subcontractors and contractors on the project. Things like, oh, well, you damaged my work. You showed up to go to work in a section of a building and there was a bunch of stuff damaged. You didn't note it. You didn't even pay attention. You just went to work, and then somebody else is claiming it was your fault. This can also occur with like employees, right? Employees getting hurt or doing something. And this is the things like, look at employees that, maybe claim a back injury. This is stuff where maybe your foreman saw a guy picking up something that was a little too heavy and warned him, say, hey, don't do that on your own, get some help, or, go get the buggy to carry that, different things like that. If we don't record that information and write it down, then it didn't exist, right? If it's not written down, it didn't exist. And so at the end of the day, if that employee claims to have injured themselves on the project, and you talk to your superintendent, he says, oh, well, I, told them many times not to do that. Well, that's not good unless you wrote it down. So these are the little things, like the little notes that we want added into our daily reports. Um, and I had a good occurrence with this as far as public interactions. One time we were doing some work and we had to dig up in front of this fast food place, their drive-through entrance. So we planned it out. We talked to them before we even got started. We knew we were going to close the entrance off. So we talked to them, when do you open, all this stuff. And we worked around their schedule. They wanted us back open at 11 o'clock because that's when they didn't serve breakfast. So we did everything we could to have them back open by 11 o'clock. Finished that work in front of their place. We did have them open by 11 o'clock. Everything went on. It went according to plan. The manager was out that day watching everything we did. Everything was cool. We thought everything was great till about a month later. I get a phone call and it's this guy's attorney saying, hey, you owe our company, whatever it was, $2,000 for missed lunch service or something. And I was like, excuse me, so they were getting ready to try to submit a claim to us. Luckily, my superintendent that was on the project at the time took pictures and video, actually walked a video through the drive-through showing that, hey, it's open, we're done. And he had sent me those, and I didn't think anything of it when he sent it to me. He didn't really, he was sending it to me to let me know that we finished on time, right? Like we did what we set out to do. Look here, we got it done. Well, so the good thing was I remembered that he had, when I'm talking to the attorney, I remembered that he had sent that to me. So I said to the attorney, I said, I want to know some more information, what you're talking about. Can you tell me the date and, what it is we did that affected his information, just send that over to me. If we, certainly if we injured his business in any way, we would take care of that. Right. I played it off like, oh, that's what we have insurance for, So he sends me an email with the information of what they were looking for. And I just responded quickly with the pictures and the video. I said, please take a look at this before proceeding any further. Right. So there we were. We had him left, never heard from him again, obviously. So, it's little things like that we don't know that are going to happen that we need to record for. Right. And if we don't have a good defense. Right. Right. So think about it. Like, we talked about the guy claiming to get hurt. If you had to go around now and take testimonials on your project site of people, this is 2 months later, asking people were the safety railings, for instance, were they always in place on the project? And, think of all the time that it would be to do all that, where if you had a report that showed a checklist that safety railings were in place or checked every day, maybe you don't have to do quite as much work and you got a good defense. And again, right, wasted time is lost revenue. So what's the bottom line with all this? Okay. The bottom line is poor reporting will affect your bottom line, right? Okay. No doubt about it. It'll affect your bottom line. So what can we do to make sure that we get good information in our daily reports? Like, how do we make sure we're getting what we need? Good reporting starts, okay, with the KISS principle. Okay, we got to keep it simple, stupid. We talked about in the beginning how we've done reports in the past and we've gotten, turned off about it, upset about it. Just really, it was a pain in the butt to get to stop what we were doing and do this stuff. So we didn't. We waited till the end. So we've got to make them simple and stupid. And the stupid's not stupid. It just means it should be easy to accomplish. Okay, so some ways to do that. All right. First is do the reporting mobile. The mobile nowadays with technology, reporting must be mobile. Okay. The next thing you can do is make it prompted so that people, you're prompting the right answers. Okay. And then let's get collaborative with our reporting. Let's not put the burden on one person. Let's get collaborative. So let's look at this and see how, I want to spark some ideas here on how some things you can do to make your reporting better and potentially save you thousands of dollars. So let's start with mobile, right? Everybody, nowadays has smartphones, right? A lot of jobs have tablets running around on them. So let's take advantage of that. Let's use these mobile devices for doing our reporting. Let's drop the tether to the whatever system you might be using, and let's use a system that's mobile, like Raking App. Raking App is ideal for that. This is what they were developed for, right? It's an app built to do daily reporting for construction. So it's a great tool. So you want to look at that stuff. And the last thing I want to mention when it comes to mobile, make it a single solution. I know that in the past I've had different systems, right? Like we had systems that monitored the project. We had systems that, reported to the owner, and, so we did different reports, and that was always such a headache. So you want to have a single solution so the people doing reports don't have to, log into this and then do a Word or Excel document for this and, do a safety checklist for this, right? Get it all into a single solution. Okay. Preferably on a mobile device. The next thing we can do to really make it better is make these things prompted. So to do that, you want to have templates. Okay. You want to make sure you have templates for your job that are job specific and make them form fill. Okay. And as you're putting these together, really pay attention to what you're doing here. I remember working with a client that wanted some help fixing their reporting. They were a prime contractor. And so we went in and we looked at how they were getting their reporting from subcontractors. And that was their biggest complaint. And they had, so we looked at their reporting forms. Now they had a real nice form for the people doing their own work, their self-perform work. But in an attempt to make their subcontractor reporting, I guess, easier for the subcontractors, somebody had come up with the idea to make these small forms. Well, the forms were so small that, they look great if you were doing them on a computer and you were able to type the information in, but they wanted people to handwrite these in the field, and all the blocks were too small to fit anything in. So what their complaint was to me was like, look at the reports we get from our subcontractors. We can't read them. We can't make sense of them. Our superintendents spend time every day going back and tracking all this, So basically all we did was revamp their forms into a more, user-friendly system where they could be filled out better. But that's one thing to look at but we had a template, right? You had a template. Theirs was good. They were asking the right questions, but they just didn't make it where the people could fill it out. So to get your information prompted, I want you to, make a template of what you expect to get reported, right? We've all seen them. They have the boxes that, and they ask the question of what you want to fill out. And that's great. But how do we do something to cover that, what I call the protection items, right? That's where it could be difficult, because you can't possibly have a form that's simple that needs to be filled out that would cover everything you need, right? So this is the last part. This is really the part that I think makes a big difference if you think about it. Put together some kind of questions / surveys / I call them checklists to stimulate for more information. And that can be a very simple thing. I know I created one time was the 10 things for my superintendent. 10 things while walking around is what I called it. And there were just a little checklist that he was supposed to do while he was walking around, and he would check them off. And it was things like check safety railings and, look for open holes. Okay. And so it asked little questions like, were there any safety, infractions on the project site? Things like that. And then there was a spot for them to fill out information if there was something. So it just got people thinking, did anybody complain today of an injury? So that they would think of something, right? Did you reprimand employees? And these can be very easy yes, no questions. But when you trigger when the answer is yes, I reprimanded somebody, it would trigger the fill in, say, hey, okay, fill out this information. So there's a lot of ways that you can prompt your field staff to give you the information you need without creating it, overburdening them. So So think about how you can do that. And there's some great survey tools, right? That certain tools that you can put together to work with your reporting to help with that. Okay. So that's a great way to get more information. And then lastly, I want to talk about, being collaborative with your reporting. Okay. We've always done right. And I was guilty of this for years. The superintendent, he was responsible for the reporting, right? That was just the way it went. Superintendent, you report on everybody. And it just makes things more difficult for that person, right? And nowadays with an app like Raken, you can allow multiple people to contribute to the reporting of a given day. So you can have, you could have multiple reports coming in and they're summing up into one basic area because of the technology that's out there. This allows you to delegate some of that reporting downstream. We started doing this a lot. We had our operators start doing, equipment utilization reports. We had our, one company I worked with, we set up a whole program where their linemen in the buckets were actually doing their material usage reports. So they were, at the end of the day, submitting the report of all the nuts and bolts and hardware that they used to put up the power lines. So it was a good system. And they didn't have, the foreman and the superintendent didn't have to go around and ask 20 different people, how many nuts and bolts did you use today? So we got to, look at ways that you can push that information downstream. And then lastly, this is a thing that I started doing here in the last few years with smartphones and everything, is encouraging everyone on the project, to snap pictures or take notes and, shoot them in. What we do is I just give an email to everybody, and I'm like, hey, so, or to me, a lot of times it was just to me, just, if something comes up on the job, right? You see something out of the ordinary, just send me a text, send me an email, take a picture. Okay. This just gets everybody involved. It kind of makes it report in. This doesn't have to go out to the public. This is just information coming into you so that you get good information from your job site, right? And that's the key. The more information we can get in, the better. We never know when we're going to need that information. So, what's the good news in all this? Reporting doesn't have to be a dreaded chore anymore, okay? It just doesn't. I mean, with technology today, there's so many ways that we can embrace things and make reporting so much easier. It almost becomes like a status update on Facebook, okay? So look and get this stuff together and take some of the ideas we put and make your reporting better. Hopefully now we all agree that proper reporting is important, right? The right information is priceless to have. You never know when you need that right information. And it's up to us to make it easier so that we can get more information. So to wrap up my whole part of this, I just want to give you the key takeaways that I want you to consider here. First is use the KISS principle to improve your reporting processes. Everybody out there has something they're doing today on reporting. And I'm going to tell you, even if if you're already a user of Raken, make sure you've got that simplified as well. Okay. Don't ask for things you don't need. Get the information you need and prompt other things. Okay. So use this KISS principle to improve it. Number 2, go mobile. You got to go mobile. Definitely consider using Raken app. It's a great app for that stuff. Prompt for information. Put your templates together so that you're prompting your reporters, right, for the right information. Stimulate them to give you the right stuff, and then get your team involved. So that's it. Thanks for being in here today, and we're going to open it up for Q&A. Actually, we're going to do a quick, in the live version of this webinar, there would be a quick demo of Raken app. But for today, we don't have that. We're not going to do that. So right now we have, this is a Q&A time. Obviously, there's no questions out there because, so if you want to connect with me, feel free. You can reach me on Twitter. It's my handle's @AnthonyBooth on Twitter, or send me an email anytime, TonyB@ContractingCoach.com. And of course, you can subscribe to our daily coach cast Monday through Friday. Every Monday through Friday, we do a daily coach cast, giving you ideas, tips, and knowledge similar to what we did today to help you build a better, more prosperous contracting business or career. So again, thanks for being here today, and thanks for tuning in to our webinar.